Okay, here's a little bit on how to write an explicit rule and a recursive rule for a linear function. Okay, so I'm going to give you a linear function 6, 10, 14, 18, which is also called an arithmetic sequence because you're adding by the same thing each time. Probably the easiest way to do the explicit rule is just to write down the formula. This is the formula as given on the Georgia EOC study guide. Anything that has an N, just leave it alone. We want to fill in A sub 1 and D. Well, A sub 1 is just simply the first term. So A sub 1 would be 6. By the way, this is A sub 2. You don't need it, but every position, this is A sub 1, A sub 2, A sub 3. That little counter is a position number. D is the difference from the first term to the second term. So, for example, the D here would be 4 because it would appear that we're adding 4 each time. Okay, so again, anything with the N, I'm going to leave it. So it's going to be times 4. And I'm just going to clean this up. So A sub N equals 6. I'm going to distribute the 4. Then we're going to combine 6 minus 4. And this is your explicit rule. What this means is if I take a position number, say position 3, for example, should be 14. We put a 3 in there. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. The recursive rule is based on how do you get from one term to the next. So it's not as powerful as the explicit rule, but it does have its place. So again, just write down the formula since you have access to it on the EOC study guide. Anything with the N, I'm going to leave alone. So all I have to do here is fill out D. And D, remember, is what I'm adding by each time. Okay. Looks funny, but the way you read this is A sub N, that's equals. A sub N equals A sub N minus 1 plus 4. And what it means is A sub N is the current term or your term of interest. A sub N minus 1 is the previous term. So to get to your current term, you take the previous term and add 4 to it. All right, looking at this second example, doing both. Okay. Again, the explicit rule. Let me write it this time. This is the explicit rule. A sub N equals A sub 1 plus N minus 1 times D. Okay. So A sub N is equal to your first term, which is 9, plus N minus 1 times your common difference. Your common difference here, well, it looks like this time you are subtracting 10 as you go from one term to the next. Okay, so I'm going to put parentheses -10. Understand that we are multiplying here and not subtracting. So A sub N is equal to 9 minus 10N plus 10. Notice the negative changed both of those signs. Now I'm going to combine 9 and 10. So it's going to be negative 10N plus 19. And again, you can test it. Say the fourth term, for example, this time. If I take a 4 and plug it in there, A sub 4 is equal to negative 10 times 4. That's negative 40 plus 19 is negative 21. Okay. And the recursive, spelled like this. A sub N equals A sub N minus 1 plus D. I encourage you to continue to write down formulas, as the more you write them down, the more apt you are to memorize them. So A sub N equals A sub N minus 1, and then D is negative 10 again. So it's as simple as that. To get to your term of interest or your current term, you take the previous term and you subtract 10 from it. Okay. Recursive and explicit rules.